KX. I was wondering if any of you have been security guards. I myself do the odd job occasionally and have some spooky stories to tell. If anyone would like to share their own, that would be great. Get security contract to assist rangers in a deep forest. Shift is 18 to 5 o'clock. K is shit, but no interaction with normies, so doesn't bother me. Get to drive a company car and essentially get the whole forest to myself. Camping was forbidden at this forest. Jot said to just report if you see any suspicious persons on site. Cameras are positioned at some parts of the forest, but would not be able to see any trespassers until notified by surveillance. Don't question it and drive in circles for a few hours. No phone reception, so can't shitpost on 4chan. Was pissing down by 8 p.m, so visibility was essentially down to about 5 meters. Middle of summer, so it was heavy jumble-tight rain that caused a lot of mist. About 2 a.m. Mist rolling it like a motherfucker and can't see shit. For some reason, I don't seem to give a fuck about it and keep driving. Start to see shiny eyes dotted on the sides of the road. Would catch the headlight of my car, but looked really low to ground. Pull over because I want to see what the fuck it is. Starts to move in the middle of the road. Polyfuck.jpg. Start to realize I'm a fucking idiot and my car is a lot further away than I realized. Does not move from middle of road. Run back to my car and lock doors. Still there. Happening.jpg. Put on high beam lights and slowly roll forward towards the eyes. Looks like a small goblin-sized creature. Realize it's actually a fucking huge owl with its head crooked and turned towards me. Nope.jpg. Drive around it and whole ass. See more pairs of eyes on the road as I drive past. Cry in my car. Get to the entrance of the forest and calm myself down. Rest of shift was okay. Okay, I got another. Keeping high on office building. Late night shift again. 22 to 6 o'clock on a Saturday. No friends, so don't care, and again avoid normies at normal hours. Watching the cameras to see if there's any /X/worthy ghosts floating around. Nothing as usual. There are some staff still on site in the late evening. Around midnight, the last one will leave the office. Observe woman in one of the hallway cameras. Acts like she is being followed, just like Elisa Lam did in the elevator. Same mannerism and everything. Get spooked seeing this and decide to investigate in person because inner sense of responsibility tells me to do it. I think it's a beta cope. Before I leave, I observe a good 30 seconds of this woman running around like she's a secret spy agent or some shit, peering over corners and running fast as fuck for no reason. Reconsider going in, but say fuck it and go to the location. Spot her and ask her how's the night going, trying to gauge her response. Says all is good and walks off normally, but was unnatural in the response she gave, like she was panicked. Thinking I fucked out somehow, but realized maybe she was just bored or I'm spurging out. I guess she was role-playing or some shit, but it was a little weird. There was no one messing with her. Maybe she knew I would observe that, but it was kind of weird for me.
I've had a lot of time in the security world, and my favorite gig was an armed patrol security company I used to work for. We would primarily run security for Section 8 complexes. I was OIC of this in a major U.S. city. The adrenaline rushes are addicting, so these Section 8 complexes get pretty ominous at night. The freedom of patrol is being able to respond to calls and really stretch your legs during a shift. If one area was calm, you could head out to an area that needed you. Around 2 o'clock a.m., the trolling in complex comprised of multiple 3 to 4-story buildings. Place was so bad we would roll gun in hand sometimes. Roll around the rear of this building. Notice one of the boards of a dilapidated building is ajar. We would clear these buildings for vagrants and other illegal activities. Get out of the control car, look around the area. It's dead quiet. Figure I'll clear the building, something to do. Once I get inside, I look around. The regular once occupied dwellings have signs of a previous life. Always wonder who lived inside. What decisions in their life lead them here? And what exactly happened that caused their building to be taken over by gangs and them forcefully moved out? I would always find the odd legal letter here and there. The odd children's drawing of their family or the sun and flowers. Round the corner of one unit and I find something interesting. I find a hole. I figure I can get through there pretty easy, and I'm curious on what's the other side. I'm getting drywall all over myself, inhaling the good old asbestos. I'm now a dog on the hunt. I find a series of holes, one leading to the next. This building is pretty big, mind. You had to have maybe 50 units inside. Honestly having fun in this ghetto labyrinth. Still going deeper into the abyss. You would find constant graffiti around. Sometimes it was a menu of services in the area. Sometimes it was a child just screwing around. Figure I had to be getting closer to the end. Shouldn't be that many units left. I would always stop and read what I come across. Sometimes it was intel, but I would always think of myself as a ghetto archaeologist of sorts and absorb everything I could. Finally reached the end of this whole journey. The end has a bigger room attached to a smaller one to the side. Clearly this is the sin room. Find a bunch of smashed phones in one corner. Trash littered about. Signs of people that were in this room not too long ago. Then I start to find a lot of bullet casings about the area. Made sure to document one. See the last room I haven't looked into yet. Go into the last room, and that's when I see it. The danger zone bone. Make sure to take a pic when I realize. Deep in a labyrinth that no one knows I'm in. Radio is out of signal range. I have no backup. I see a bunch of shit in front of me. I think that's blood on the mattress. When I go in for a closer look, I hear a series of footsteps in front of me. Immediately know I'm deep behind jogger lines, and I need to GTFO of there. I'm not a cop, I don't give a shit what happened here, I need to get out of here. What get out of the holes, get back in my car. Light a ciggy, and hit the road to calm my nerves. Now I'm not sure if this was an execution site, or just a bitch that was on a period or something. I don't know. I just know I didn't want to stick around and find out. This place had murders at least every month. It was honestly the worst I've ever been to. It's now been demolished, but I find myself thinking about that ghetto maze from now, and then wondering what true stories happened there.
I have one to share. It's not spooky as much as unsettling. Be me 22-year-old security guard on their last shift. Been working this job since I left the Air Force. Finally getting around to going to college, so getting a new job in the campus library. I basically work at gate guard for some snobby rich neighborhood. Place is honestly the worst. People scam literally everyone they can. 75% of my job is turning away pizza guys who are given bad checks or letting cops in to serve court orders. Last part of my shift, my replacement was supposed to be here at midnight, but it's now 0:30. Fuck you, Kyle. Gray Nissan pulls up to my gate. God damn it, I just want to leave. Instantly feel like something is off. Woman is sweating profusely and extremely jumpy. Keeps ducking low or glaring when the occasional cars pass us. Just residents coming home. Ask her if she's okay. She says she's being followed by someone who raped her. Immediately tense up and go into high alert. Ask her if they're close. Start looking for anyone or any cars loitering around. She claims the car that just passed us was the rapist. Before I can say anything, says he's coming back. It's a totally different car. She says another car is following her. Start to realize she was on something. Maybe you should call the police, ma'am. They're all in on it. This was before I knew what gang stalking was. This carries on for a while, as she keeps indicating car after car is a pursuer. She claims when they stop at a stop sign, that's them passing off their stalking duties to the next car. Finally, her boyfriend shows up. Fucker walks out of the bushes on the neighborhood side. Scares the fuck out of me. He starts trying to calm her down. Gives me this slow, I already know, nod before I say anything. Eventually he's able to get into her car and they drive away. Other guards shows up as my asshole begins to relax. Tell him about it and go home. Next day I get to work to find my boss and the sheriff waiting. They ask me about last night. I answer everything and show them the report I made of the thing. I find out that the boyfriend was stabbed multiple times and was currently in the ICU. Bitch was still on the loose. I finish giving my statements, turn in my uniform, shake my boss's hand, and go home. Officially no longer my problem. I still think about it occasionally. No idea if that guy died or if they caught that girl. Or even if she was on or off something. Like I said, nothing spooky like skinwalkers or anything but unsettling. I truly believe if I let her out of the car, she would have attacked me. So I guess I'm just lucky.
Not exactly security, but I work in shipping. This happened 5 years ago, but it boggles my mind to this day. Be me. Have watch on bridge together with one AB. Very young man, but responsible and competent. Nothing happens. Boring shit you always get in the Biscay Bay. Everything's Will. AB tells me he sees another ship. Look up from console and onto radar. Check AIS and comms. Nothing. I assume it could be a small pleasure craft. Strange, but not entirely unlikely. Take binoculars and ask him to show me. Both of us looked where he spotted the ship for a few minutes, but find nothing. Tell him his mind probably connected some shapes, and it's nothing. 10 minutes later, he sees it again. Get kinda rude, but check anyway. Nothing. Assume he is just overenthusiastic. Ask him to describe the ship. He describes a huge ship with a tall superstructure and actual turrets. Ask him if he consumed alcohol or other drugs. Because battleships are not used anymore, and he's an idiot. Hear a ship's horn. Run to comms because I thought I fucked up, and there is a ship nearby. Nothing on any system. AB tells me to look portside. A fucking battleship goes past us without even disturbing the water. Maybe 50 meters away from us. Ask Chief Engineer to come up and look right. He sees it too. MSW, he only tells us to not look at it directly. He's very much alive and employed, but I don't know on what vessel or his contact, since the crewing agency doesn't tell us because EU data protection nonsense. However, we obviously asked him afterwards what the fuck we saw and why we shouldn't look at it. He only responded very defensively and didn't really tell us anything of any substance, except that it's not an uncommon sight and that these ghost ships would bring bad luck if you looked at them too long, but otherwise are supposedly harmless. On other occasions, before we saw the ship, he also told of more ridiculous shit, which nobody really believed. But after what happened, I am more inclined to believe him. The things he also talked about, and take that with a grain of salt, because I think he was also just messing with the Never guys. Include weird stuff like sirens/mermaids in the med, lights mimicking lighthouses, and that sounds terrifying as fuck, into more reasonable things like St. Elmo's fire and milky water, which is just physics/biology at work. I also have some more stories of strange things myself, but they aren't really scary, just strange. On a side note, for a time I was also considering that we saw a real ship adrift and abandoned. However, these don't move swiftly and straight like they are propelled by engines and obviously give off radar signatures and are affected by waves/affect them. Furthermore, they don't sound horns.
Be me working as a guard in a loony bin. Walking by a shower. Hear someone inside mumble something. Pound on the giant metal door. Hey man, gotta get out. Had the shower key and had the door open within a few seconds. Nobody inside. I step in to search the shower. Lights are off, so I have nothing but the dim light from outside the shower and my flashlight. Hear someone right next to me mumble. Nope. Step out. Slam the giant steel door. Hear the water turn on inside. Could not have been the door slamming. To turn the shower on, you have to mash a button and hold it for a few seconds. I just walked away. Shit like that was so common. I barely reacted to it.
Care to post some more stories? I'm interested.
Walking downstairs. The building I'm in houses tons of very bad people. Building is built like a maze of barred doors with large caged-off rooms for inmates to work out or watch TV. The IRL Michael Myers lives in this building as an example of the type of person we kept in there. So no surprise that, when I saw a shadow figure roaming one of the caged-in rooms from the stairs, I rushed down. Nobody was supposed to be out. I got through the maze of doors and ran to the room to where I could look inside. I saw what looked like a humanoid made of TV studded. He quickly dissolved from his head to his feet. Nobody saw it but me, but several other people reported the same sort of thing. I mentioned IRL Michael Myers. Name was Tyler. Was in prison for murder, multiple people. Went full schizo in prison. Sent to my facility. Basically the dumpster for prisons across my state for anyone deemed insane or high risk with major mental issues. Tyler had episodes where he forced prison guards and inmates to fight him together. He, allegedly, took on 8 guards and 12 inmates at one point. They tried killing him but didn't finish the job. Guards had to keep him safe after someone thumped him in the head with a 40 millimeters. Tyler was deemed insane after eating his celly's face off. Celly equals cellmate. Tyler thought he was a vampire or a werewolf depending on the day. He was 6 feet 6 inches, 300 plus lbs, and one day he got loose. Stupid trainee let him out of a shower. I came around a corner. Tyler is standing there naked. EY, Tyler. On the wall, man. Let's go home. I'm free. Tyler. It's Officer Orion. Look at me, man. You won't look at me. Fuck. Stupid trainee is screaming into the radio that an inmate is loose. We required backup. Tyler hears the radio. They will have to kill me, but they don't have the silver. EY. Nobody has to dash. Tyler bolts down the hall and down the stairs, punches a glass wall of reinforced riot-proof glass, cracks it. His hand is fine. I go down to him. Tyler, listen to me. The sun's up. You need to get home. I don't care about the sun. I thought you were a vampire. I am. You better get home. He agrees. I gave him his attention. He literally lets himself into his own cell, then looks me dead in the face and says, I was going to eat you. He then proceeded to howl like a wolf for 5 hours, and was angry I tricked him.
I helped you get paying well.
$19 per hour, 12-hour shifts, for days off a week. Then they fucked all that up and wanted me working 6 days a week, 1 day off, because so many people quit due to being forced to do dangerous stuff, but were too stupid to say no.
This guy was getting 19 per hour dealing with this shit. Meanwhile, I was feeling stressed that I only get 25 per hour for easy computer work. I will never complain about anything again.
Why I quit. Inmate Whalen was chipping out after I told him he had to cut his recreation time short due to low staff. It was me, alone, with 64 lunatics, half of them out of their cells. Whalen and I got into it. Never had an issue with him. No idea why he's so angry. Had been cold, doing woe for months. Had him in a doorway, both of us arguing. He's making threats and I'm telling him to chill out or get gassed, then hooped by the 8 other dudes I was about to call or riot team. My partner comes back to help me get him under control, but has to leave right after. Whalen calms down as soon as my partner gets back and separates us. My partner was also fucking massive. Waiter Whalen begins apologizing to me. I talk to him. We agree to let things slide, but I find it weird. He said one thing I didn't understand. I don't know why I'd do something bad to you. You were always cool with me. I'm sorry. We just had an argument. We had arguments in the past. This was nothing new. He was good for a while, but he and I had gotten into it many times when I was new. Fast forward to next week. Whalen attempts to kill my friend. Administration told my friend he had to let Whalen out and not handcuff him. Whalen produced a shake and slashed at my buddy's throat. He had been planning this 4 months to kill a guard so he would be sent back to regular prison. He was going to do that to me. And let me clarify, I did not consider arguments problems. Literally everyone argued. Whalen was fuming. He was turning red and was threatening to do something. I think the fact that I stayed calm and he already had respect for me is what saved me from at least getting cut up. Last one, and it's purely /X/tier. Be in Suicide Central. Be walking the rows doing my rounds. Is about 2 in. Showers ahead. These are more like the showers in the movies. Single stalls though. Not a huge room. See feet under a stall door. They raise up. I think someone is hiding. Bull rush the stall door. Kick it open. Fully expecting a scuffle with some schizo. Nobody. Partner saw the whole thing. Asks if I'm going crazy too. Tell him what I saw. Oh, yeah. That happens sometimes. Second week on the job BTW. Oh, that's not even the worst part. Got exposed to a disease that was unknown. Got popped on. Got jizzed on. Got pissed on. Fought a dude who flayed his arms open. Then in the middle of the struggle, I got AIDS. Sat in blizzards watching a fence with no feeling in my hands or feet. Found tons of CP. Got gassed or pepper sprayed on the weekler. Found dudes fucking. Had inmates tell me where I lived. Found a guy with 10 pins up his ass. Caught female guards fucking inmates. Found male guards fucking all male inmates. Worked with literal war criminals from Africa. Dumped inmates downstairs. List goes on. Oh, my partner pissed off a known absolute mad lad. Left me alone to watch him. Went on his lunch break, which was supposed to be 30 minutes. Oh yeah, 12-hour days. Only 1 30 minutes break. Came back 2 hours later to see what had unfolded. The inmate, Tyrone, told me he was finna do something. And boy, did he do something. Shit into a plastic cereal bowl. began finger painting his cell, coated his windows and shit so I could not see him, called for help. Sergeant shows up. We pull Tyrone out and take all his property so he can't hurt himself while we wait for medical to come get him. Well, I'm alone again. Mika somehow clogs his toilet and floods his shit-filled cell, spits a plastic fork piece into his hand and starts jabbing holes in his arm, wipes shit into his wounds. Call for help again. This time my partner comes back. Hola, where I and what did you do? Tyrone laughs that maggot out and says I was cold, but he was hearing them voices again.
This happened to me in Korea. I was in the US Army. My unit was running a shooting range, chilling waiting by a gate on top of a small mountain, making sure no retards walk on into the live N249 range. His Korean officer asks me to follow him, drive over to the back gate to guard. Chilling by the back gate for a while. Realized I had been alone for over 2 hours. I noticed people walking through some trees to my left, just outside the back gate. Vague outlines of people through the trees. Figure it's local hikers. Notice they are not making noise. I get out of my truck to get a closer look. Still can't hear them. They move into the road about 60 feet away. They are wearing traditional Korean clothes. Almost hit bricks when they move through the trees. No fucking way. Still no doors. One moves right through the guardrails clear as day. Unfrozen in place. I go back to my vehicle and 20 minutes later our rage is closed down. I never told anyone about this.
Be me. Security for a hotel that has been around since 1948. Other guards talk about a ghost named George. You're right, JTG. 1 week later it's 3 a.m. Motel has a ballroom. Every time I walk in the ballroom, the doors slam in my face or hit me from behind. Would notice chairs move every hour I did my chores. My skin would always feel shocked every time I was in the ballroom. This goes on for 2 weeks. One day I began to talk to George like a bro. Began asking him how his day was, or how he is enjoying the weather. How står då slemming stops? I left that site. Sorry it's boring, but that is the only /x/ story I have.
Military Mac, stationed in Montana, don't want to go into more detail than that. We basically sit around all day at what is essentially a fob and respond to cameras in remote fenced-in areas if they pick up movement. It is December and it is Montana, so it is cold as fuck and totally snowed in where we are. Camera out at a site is tripped. Usually these turn out to be rabbits or nothing at all. A camera is tripped. It is about 35 minutes driving time. Me and a guy we'll call Bob respond. Sun is down and there are no lights out there. Wind is hardly blowing, but it is cold as fuck. It is common for these locations that we go to be on or near civi land, usually farms. As we pull up, I can see cows about 100 yards from the fence. Yeah, that was probably what tripped it. Get out anyway. Procedure it's so walk the fence just to be safe. Bob stays in the Humvee, hearing moos in the distance. Make the call that cows trip the camera. Copy that, come on home. Hear a sheep in the distance. The fuck? I don't know much about farms, but I've never seen any of these places keep cows and sheep together. All of the noises sounded exactly the same, like no change in pitch or anything, and it was one sheep. I keep walking back, but look around, don't see shit. We drive about 10 minutes before we get the call to go back. Camera is tripped again. Cows nowhere in sight. This time Bob walks the fence. Can see Bob's flashlight walking the fence. Start hearing the sheep again. Same pitch sounds creepy as fuck. Don't see a sheep. We radio that there is a sheep doing it, but we can't see it. Copy that. Stand by. We later find out that that farmer had no sheep. They believe a cattle gate was left open, but when we pulled up it was closed. Place was on Little Shell territory. I believe in all sorts of crazy shit, man. Part of me thinks that was a fucking skinwalker.
I've worked in mental health units as security before, and while most aboriginals are drug-fucked primitives or schizos, you hear occasional lucid threats or rambles. I remember once saying in a fit of rage, "They don't know what we got in the swamp. There's a lot of wetlands here." In another, talking me in complete sobriety after a lengthy episodic burst of nonsense about his mob, knowing the secret to this short dream. This continent is ancient, and I think these people, despite being complete degenerates in a failed race, have made contact with preternatural entities throughout time. The sec I know once went on a retreat by herself down south in ancient woodlands and heard beautiful singing, but resisted the urge to follow it deeper into the woods. Turns out local lore of the area from her liaison with Abos and park ranger security say people have gone missing never to be found with reported similar phenomena. Abos pretty much said it's a good thing she didn't follow the singing. Sometimes I think Fae-like beings made it to this land as well, or animist nature spirits.
I'm inclined to think similarly, Anon. There's a practice in Aboriginal communities, at least before Europeans went over, where Abos had to sing to the land. Otherwise, the land would grow hostile. Every piece of land had its own song. And if you learned the song, you had control over the land and the things that existed. These songs were passed on as inheritances. Similarly, Europeans who encountered Abos early on said that they were taught songs that allowed them to navigate certain regions without getting lost. When you take into account the Dreamtime creation story and compare it to the tradition of the Mexican Nahualis, you'll see a striking similarity. These Nahualis claim to be able to affect very specific changes in waking life through learning the appropriate dreams. Spooky stuff.
Not a security guard, but I'm a US Marine, so security is something that we do a lot of. Stationed on Okinawa, mid-2017. On Kadena AFB waiting for a flight to mainland Japan to do some more training. Flight window was supposed to be for 12 hours, but there was a storm offshore that ended up getting our flight delayed by like a day. There's a building that is kind of like an airport, but it closes after a certain time. Airmen aren't happy that a bunch of dirty and soaking Marines are in their airport and tell us we have to leave when they close. Closing time for the airport. Our chain of command sucked and didn't find an empty building for us, so we end up sleeping in a grass field right outside of the airport. It's raining. Eventually some officer, colonel or something, I don't remember, sees us sleeping on the grass and tells our command that we can sleep inside the base theater if we post 2 guards at certain gate. Command agrees. I'm new to my unit at this time, so I have a shift at 0200 to 0300. Get woken up at 0145 by the guys on shift. Fuckmalife.jpg. Me and one of my best friends, another LCPL, get up and walk to the gate. Gate is by the edge of the airfield and has one street lamp right above it. Me, my friend, and the guy that woke us up all walk up to the gate guard. Hey, what's up, man? Looks really pale. Hey, Lance Corporal Anon. What's good? This guard was a brand new guy and was never really nervous when our NCOs would fuck with him. So seeing him like this was kind of unnerving. Before either of us could ask what was wrong, the guy who woke us up asked, "Did you hear it again?" "Yeah, man, it seems a lot closer than it did last time." Asked what the fuck was going on. "I dunno, man. There's been a lot of rustling in the bushes around, and we kept hearing voices on our shift." Okinawa is a tropical island, so the entire place is a jungle. There's no trees by the airfield or the gate, but the grass is very thick and about 6 feet high. We've seen animals before during other training like big cats and flying foxes, but usually they get scared of a human with a rifle and leave us alone, but that shit is still scary. The guard had been there alone while his buddy woke me and my friend up, so I assumed that he had just kind of got skeeved out being alone. Anyways, the other guys tell us good luck and leave to go back to the theater. My friend and I kind of joke around about it because seeing that guy nervous was really weird. We quickly get bored and shoot the shit about various porn stars we think are good. Dylan Harper is my favorite, even though her tits look connected, so we call her Frog Tits. While talking about her, we heard some scurrying in the bush about 10 feet in front of us. We both go silent and expect to see something. We aim our rifles, we have no ammo, down the street and turn on our lights. We can see that about 5 feet off to the right of the road, the tall grass is shaking like there's a tall figure moving through it. Normally, if it were a cat, the rusting wouldn't be as vigorous at the top, so we figure it must be something kind tall. My friend and I look at each other, then back towards the bush. "Hey, you fucking gook, get out of those bushes and come here," my friend yells. It doesn't respond. A second later, it bolts off further into the woods and down the road. We think it's weird, but whatever. At 0235, my friend decides to walk down to the theater and wake up the next guys to relieve us. I don't want to be alone, but I let him so we can both go back asleep. He leaves. I start getting pretty tired, and I can feel my head bobbing as I drift in and out of sleep. As I start to shut my eyes, I hear the rustling about 6 feet away from me. I'm ready to shit myself. I turn on my light and point it off the road to the right. There's something walking pretty fast out there, but the grass is too thick to see what it is. I can see the bushes moving towards the road. I'm starting to brace myself to see something. All of a sudden, I see the outline of creature stick its head out and look at my direction. I train my light on it as it jumps forward onto the road. It's a fucking Marine in World War II combat gear, pick related. His camis are caked in mud. His face is blackened and he's holding an M1 carbine. Can't fucking believe at what I'm looking at. There are holes in his uniform that look like he had been shot through, but there wasn't any blood. The guy looks my way, then crosses the road and I can see the bushes start moving again. After a few minutes, I can start to hear footsteps behind me, but I'm too afraid to look. Hear my friend's voice, along with 2 other guys. Relieved that I'm leaving. Must have looked really nervous because my friend asked if I heard anything again. Nodded yes and just left with my friend. Didn't say anything to him until after we left Okinawa when he joked around that I looked so weird a few weeks later. This was the second time I had seen something at Kadena AFB, but definitely the worst. I haven't been to Okinawa since and I'm out now. I think about that moment from time to time and wonder if I really did see that. It did not seem angry or like it wanted to hurt me or anything. I eventually read up on ghost stories from Okinawa, and there were quite a few articles talking about airmen who had seen other Marines in World War II attire around that gate as well.
Be night shift security guard at a museum. Inherently a boring gig. Only real factor that makes the job a challenge of any kind is the size of the place, with 4 above ground floors and a basement. The acoustics were wacky as well due to the building itself being pretty old, and actually just being 3 older buildings. One of the few claims to fame for the museum was the Egyptian mummy it has on display still having its heart and brain. One night decided to bother to check out the mummy room. It's relatively out of the way. There's some taxidermied polar bears and other mounted animals in the room too. The theme was all over the place. Decided to tap on the glass to the mummy box for the heck of it. Hear a fucking high-pitched giggle come from somewhere behind me. I try not to fall and stumble and break any of the displays as I make it out into most open part of the building, while turning on every light switch I could find. Absolutely no sign of any kid, or anything else after about an hour of searching. I know for a fact that there's security video of me dancing around like a spaz in that room, but no one ever brought it up.
Not security, however, I do have a spooky story or two. Move into a shitty rundown house from the 20s. Be poor and live in a shitty neighborhood, so it's the best we can get. Mom with some guy who works at a gas company. Start seeing weird girls in robes looking about the age of 6 or 7. Would appear in doorways, atop the stairs, and in front of my bed late at night. My dreams were of her in my face, staring into my eyes and my body feeling cold. Didn't say anything to my mom for years because she was always stressed and overworked. Told me her and my sister were home alone and heard footsteps and the sound of a ball rolling across the floor. Front of the house locked off and had a massive hole in the floor. Remember seeing a baby doll in the dirt and rotted wood. Knew the home had some sort of ghost or entity. Became religious and prayed to God for protection. Remember one distinctive dream. The house is all red and has a lantern. Go downstairs and the family is possessed. Tell me to praise Satan. Refuse. The whole house collapses and wakes up in cold sweat. Weird shit stopped happening ever since then. Moved out of that house 2 years ago when Mom broke up with the guy.
Be me, 16 in my first job at a cemetery at Tarnover. 8 p.m. till 8 a.m. in winter. Go there, and there's a generator in a little cabin. Nothing happened for a few hours, just playing Ridja and occasional checks outside. 2 Uhr nachts. Lights start flickering. I get up to check the generator. Massive crash happens at the door. What? Lights go off completely. Bangs hit every side of the cabin. Wait 10 minutes. Finally open the door and it's raining and foggy. Spoopy.jpg. Trail of blood from the door all around the cabin. Walk around quietly looking for anything. Crunching sounds by a tree. Look over and see a pair of eyes. GTFO of there as fast as I can and quit the job that night. Never go back. Still creeps me out.
Get security job at old school that's closed, pretty small school. Been used for everything from a house, to a clinic, to a hospital during both wars, to a school until it was closed. Totally quiet and pretty affluent place. But the owners don't want anyone to break in and destroy/steal things. Speak with a few guards who worked there, and they said they wouldn't go back because of spooky shenanigans. Pussies. During the day there's only one guard, and at night they have 3. Only need to check perimeter and keep people away. Don't need to enter the school anymore because of the last guard shitting themselves. Work during nice summer day. Pass boiler room and see a piece of what has been pulled off. It's a tight squeeze, like a 9 to 10 inch gap. Can't replace it in case someone is inside and I lock them in. Get through it. Just end up in bathroom. Shout hello. No response. Start looking around. Broad daylight and no shutters on the windows, so it's not even dark. Go upstairs. Second from last classroom door is closed. Check classes and no one in them. Go in closed door class. No one there. Turn back around and glimpse someone run past door to last classroom. I've been tricked. Go to last room. No one there. Turn around in class I was in before has the door closed again. Go in. No one there. Fuck this. Start heading to bathroom. Hear a bang somewhere behind me. Not even going to investigate. Get to bathroom and hear really heavy footsteps running down corridor to bathroom. Na senpai. Try to squeeze my way through gap, but in my panic get stuck. Hear bathroom door slam open against the wall. Force my way through and cut myself. Turn back around and look inside. Bathroom door is open, but there's no one there, just pure silence. Replace wood. Sit in comfy cabin with the door locked. Following day, I get asked to go in a separate building the teachers used, like a staff room, because the skylight has been broken and someone might have entered. Go in. Nothing out of order. See literally tens of thousands of stacks of paper, strewn all over the floor, on the desk, everywhere. In the same room / cover the skylight is in, they're all reports from the last few years from security who detailed what they'd experienced, and why they won't be returning. Really tempted to take them, because they could be interesting to read properly. Don't drive there because it's not that far from where I live. Decide the following day I should drive to work and put them in my car to take home. Lock things up and tell them they'll need someone out to cover the skylight. Next day I drive there. Card's still there from night shift. Tell me that last night the building caught fire, the one with the papers in, not the main school. Ask them how. Don't know. Structurally unsafe anyway, and has to be torn down so the owners are fucking furious. Get full arson investigation. Never determine how the fire started. It's not even an interesting story, Disu. The only thing I absolutely regret is not taking those reports because the few I read were really interesting from an /x/ perspective. You couldn't believe everything the night shift guard said either, because even though there were 3 of them, they would always put immigrants on the night shift, and they'd just 420 blazeyed until the next morning. They were all really superstitious types, and wouldn't even do the perimeter check because of the memes they'd heard. They'd just listen to the radio for 120 and talk among themselves in the cabin until I turned up.
Be me. Summer 2003. Worked for property maintenance company. Clean out houses after evictions. Board them up. Keep grass cut until house is sold by big. Get a job for a house in bumfuck nowhere, Ohio. Get to property and do walk-around inspection of windows and doors. Notice back door is ajar. Have to go into house to see if anyone is in there, or if house has been torn up. First floor and second floor all good. Gotta go into basement. Timeto get stabbed by hobo.jpg. Have my flashlight on. Basement room is covered in black paint, handprints everywhere. Chair with something tied to it facing the corner. It's a fucking mannequin with all these weird signa and sigils all over it. Nope the fuck out to my car and leave the area.
Okay, but I'm found posting so settle in. Be me at 16 and sneak out with friends to hang out or explore old abandoned buildings. Living in Mississippi at the time near a town called New Albany. We decide to explore a building in the backcountry that was supposedly haunted because a bunch of Satanists killed themselves there. Being the Bible thumper area it was, locals kept it out of the local papers, but word of mouth is a thing. So me and my friends, there are 5 of us, get there, and it's a slightly dilapidated 2-story house. When you go inside, it's got a long hallway with doors on either side, and ending at a staircase that leads upstairs. We decided to check the upstairs first because why not? We start to go upstairs, and my head starts to hurt. I think nothing of it because my abusive grandparents had me on meds I shouldn't have been on, so I got headaches fairly often. As we ascend the staircase, however, the headache gets worse to the point I'm thinking of turning back, but I try to tough it out. When we get to the top of the stairs, there's a long hallway as well with doors on either side again. You take one step into the hallway, and it feels like someone shoved a spike through the back of my head and I passed out. This next part was told to me by my friends later, and I had no reason to doubt them. So after I passed out, they heard a thud and turned to see me on the floor. I was bringing up the rear in case someone tried to sneak up on us, and I had the best hearing. And they rushed to turn me over and try to wake me up. Suddenly my eyes shoot open and I grab my friend. Let's call him Bob, by the throat, and according to them, lift myself and him off the ground. Now I had some muscle, but he weighed 260 pounds of muscle, so this should have been impassable one-handed. Then I said in a voice not my own, "You need to leave now." And they start freaking out saying, "Fine, we'll leave." And I put him down and started down the stairs. As we leave the stairs, they hear a door upstairs slam open, and it sounds like something massive is stopping down the hallway towards the staircase, and I say, "Too late," and just crumble to the ground. My friend Bob then picks me up over his shoulder in a fireman's carry, and he hauls ads back out to his truck, and he tosses me in the bed of the truck and takes off after everyone piles in, 2 in the cab and me and 2 others in the bed. Shortly afterwards I wake up and it is pitch black. This is weird cause when we arrived it was a clear night with a full moon and no forecasted weather. I looked at my friends and they just stared at me then the road behind us. I look in the cab at the speedometer and we're doing almost 150 miles per hour. I look towards the back of the truck then the front and notice the lights aren't illuminating more than 10 feet in any direction. I then hear my other friend, let's call him Sean, say "Oh fuck." When I look towards the back of the truck, I just barely see something on all 4s, running after us just at the edge of the light of the tail lights. Then all of a sudden it's bright out again like someone flicked a switch. I mean the moon is back and there's not a cloud in the sky. We see New Albany in the distance and start slowing down and head back to Bond's house. No sleep. Next is a follow-up a few months later. So a few months later we decided to ignore what happened that night. I wish we had gone to a priest now though, and go camping. My friend Bob had found a clearing in the woods near his house while hiking. So we load up early in the morning and hike to the spot. We set up and start hiking around. Fast forward to that night, and we have a huge campfire going. We're smoking weed and talking when I notice that aside from us, the woods have gone dead silent. Now if you've been to Mississippi in midsummer, you know it is never silent at night. So I started looking around and it was like someone dumped ice in my veins cause the campfire is barely illuminating 10 feet out and I can barely see the tree line. I then look across the fire to my 2 other friends, let's call them Mark and Will, and I see eyes behind them shining. I call out their names and say, "Behind you." They look shoot to their feet and come and rush to my side of the fire with Bob and Sean. I'm literally shaking in fear when I feel something tap my arm. I look and Bob is holding out one of his pistols to me. I'm surprised to see each of my friends aiming a pistol at the thing across the fire. Found out later that they had gotten them after what happened at the house. I grab the pistol and take aim. My uncle taught me how to shoot at his friend's firing range. And Bob counts down from 3 to 1 and we open fire. This thing doesn't fucking flinch. We empty the pistols and suddenly it growls and stands up. It had to be 13 feet tall, and it reached behind it and started climbing up the tree while just staring at us. As soon as it's out of sight, the light comes back and so does the night sounds. We didn't let that fire burn out after that, and as soon as the sun was up we hauled us out of there. After that night, every now and then when I'm outside at night, I'll see this ducking thing on the edge of any light just staring at me. I'll know it's there just because everything was suddenly silent. Fast forward a few years later, and I'm living in Illinois. Haven't really talked to the guys for a while when I did a phone call from an unknown number. It's Bob's wife calling me that he had killed himself, and in his note, he had asked that I and the others be informed. I was the last she had called and informed me that Mark and Sean died in a car accident in the middle of the night, and what was found in his garage disemboweled. Wow, blew his brains out. I thanked her for letting me know, and gave her my condolences. After I got off the phone with her, I looked out my apartment window, and saw that fucking thing licking at me. I closed my curtains, and didn't sleep for 2 days after that. To this day, I still see it and wonder why it hasn't killed me yet. It's been 7 years since I found out they died, all within days of each other. I'm not religious, so I can't say God is protecting me, and I'm not suicidal, so I'm not going out that way. I don't know what made me want to share all this, but be careful out there, brothers. Sometimes this shit takes the fucking wheel.
Not a guard, but was doing security duties. Pick his layout of place. Working in a wacky warehouse-style place. Literally just a breeze block cuboid with soft play areas. Shit job and pay pittance, but was my first job. Last person on shift does security for the building. Ensure place was empty, cash up, etc. Last job is to turn off lights, set alarm and lock doors. Have to navigate in the dark around front desk once lights are off. Doors are glass, so you can see inside the play area. Walk into owning pub next door with cash float. Anon, you didn't turn off the lights. Look at security camera. Every light is on full blast. MFW, I turned them all off. MFW, no way, I could have not noticed due to the desk/doors. Have to unlock building and go back inside to turn them off. MFW, expecting it to be some kind of trap. Turn off lights and sprint out the building. Don't dare to look inside as I lock up. The pub next door was allegedly haunted and several staff had reported seeing things. I'd seen a ghostly leg and witnessed some poltergeist phenomenon. So maybe the lights was the ghost fucking with me.
I'm not security, but I work construction. We were getting ready to demo an old asylum. I do lots of urban exploring in my free time now. Being to all sorts of haunted places, none really affected me. This place though felt different. I have never gotten the heebie-jeebies from anywhere, but I did at this place. Place tried really hard to hide what it was, although it was really overgrown. It still looked beautiful and had a nice view of the river nearby. Was set up almost like a village with lots of buildings with homely-looking exteriors. They were known to murder patients, a lot of which were kids. Most of the staff was in on it. I unknowingly stood where they suffocated an 11-year-old boy and just felt god-awful. That place made my skin crawl all the time. I hated every minute working there. Was doing a walkthrough before we leveled one of the buildings, and I just felt like I was being watched the whole time. I was staring at a mural the kids painted on the wall, thinking it's a shame that their art will be lost forever, when I heard footsteps sprinting toward me. At first I thought it was a fellow worker, but noticed it sounded like short strides. I then saw a shadow come around the corner, run right towards, and then through my body. Instant waves of cold and bad feelings. I promptly left. No more lock frost for me. It's someone else's job now. I'm glad the place is flattened and deserves to be forgotten.
I've had a few weird occurrences happen to me over the years. Here's my weirdest one though. Be me, security guard for pharma company, located just outside a small town. Shift runs from 2200 hours until 5 o'clock, at which point the day shift turns up. This one particular night I sat down at my post, which is basically a small cupboard on the north side of the complex where the entrance foyer is, as well as conference rooms. The east side is used for offices, and the west side is used for storage and shipping. South side is where the labs are. I didn't have a key to each of the labs, and if I saw anything there, I was supposed to call the police. Pick related for layout. One night, at about 2 a.m., I've just done a sweep of the north side while a colleague of mine finishes his sweep of the east side. I radio in to confirm that I'm back. He does the same. A few seconds later, I hear a loud bang down the hall, like the sound of someone slamming a big metal door. Shit myself, but head out to investigate. Walk around the corridor and head into the central atrium. Double door to the south side is wide open. Note.jpg. Not supposed to enter south side, but do anywhere. First thing I noticed is a long white corridor that has multiple doors partitioning it. Every single door is wide open. Double note.jpg. Run back to my office. Get back. Realize I left my radio behind in the commotion. Other dude has been trying to radio me for 10 minutes. Immediately tells me to meet him outside in front of the entrance as he's called the police. Get outside. Ask him what he thinks that bang was. What bang? I heard screaming. Ask him what the fuck he's on about. You didn't hear the loud screaming? Triplenote.jpg. Police do a clean sweep of the building and find nothing. Get that to my post. Decide to check CCTV cameras. Completely blank except for one frame, showing a blurry white figure running down the corridor in the south side I was in. To this day, I have no idea what happened.
Not a security guard. First job at an old prep school in New England as an audio engineer. In the basement of a 1960s library, the whole building looked like the set from an old 60s science fiction building, sort of retrofuturism. Summertime, so place is empty. Work in basement, huge underground auditorium with stadium seating. Plastic swivel chairs attached to long curving tables down to lecture podium at bottom. Rear projection movie screen behind it. Chairs squeaked loudly when moved on hinges. Whole system was automated with old control buttons and switches, no computers. I was in AV room in top corner of auditorium, called lobby auditorium, set in the wall like a security room. One wall, all glass. One door had view of entire auditorium. Second interior room studio behind another glass wall. Only door to outer office. In first room had turntable and big monitor speakers. Would play Bach records while I worked. Interior studio had cassette tape copying machines. I would speed copy language tapes 10 at a time and maintain the machines. Easy job. Gotta sit around and listen to music. 1980s, so no internet. Lights on in studio. Dark in auditorium. Gear squeaking sound and thumping. Sound of someone flipping a chair out and it hitting the table in auditorium. Pitch black in auditorium. Light switches on the other side. I'm locked in an empty library basement. So I lock the studio door and shut off the music. Squeak thump. Peer out the glass. Can't see shit. Someone's fucking with me. Movie screen lights up. Automated projector turns on behind the screen, just a square of light. See one of the stadium seats pull back on the attached swing arm, turn and squeak loudly, then thump back into place. Seat next to it does the same, like someone is walking along hitting each seat with their hand. Nobody is there. Each seat along the row gets hit, spins, lets out a squeak and thumps back. Squeak thumped, squeak thumped, squeak thumped, squeak thumped, all the way to the bottom of the auditorium. Each chair gets spun. Power goes out, the movie screen goes dark. Lights and machines stop in my studio. I lock the studio door in the dark and back into the recording studio and close that door too. Trying to see out, can only see red exit signs glowing. Hear unmistakable sound of heavy footsteps running up the carpeted steps of the auditorium towards my studio. They stop outside. Remember flashlight there for when repairs need to be made, cleaning tape heads, etc. Grab it and turn it on. Shine it out of the big glass window. Weak light, can't see anyone outside. Violent, something hits the glass pane. The whole thing booms like a drum. Still nothing there. Just about shit myself. Violent, glass pane is shaking like it's going to break, then stops. A short while later hear the chairs squeaking and hitting the tables again. Wait until the sound reaches the bottom again and unlock the door and run to the exit. Thumping footsteps back up the stairs behind me. Push the bar on the door. It opens, I turn out, and I try to push it shut against the pneumatic closer. Too slow. Door clicks closed as something hits it from behind. I manage to get the master key out and get it in the lock and turn it. Doors shaking like someone is throwing their body against it. Shitty lock and doors are pushed out and fall back. Lucky an emergency exit is behind me in a stairwell, and I run outside and lock the door. Run to my car and just jump in and lock it. No more sounds, nobody around, so I drive home. Found out later that some student had jumped from the top of the atrium in the library to the bottom floor and died. Years later, I saw in the school newsletter they demolished the library and built doors. Kind of a shame. Besides the ghost, the old library was full of cool liminal spaces.
I used to be a security guard for the Vancouver film industry. One very popular filming location is a mental institution, Riverview or Riverside. I can't remember now. Anyways, you have seen this place, Untold Stories of the Era, Deadpool 2, The Orphanage, Grave Encounters, etc. The thing is, All of the places in Grave Encounters are basically just like the movie. There is literally a long dark underground tunnel that they would use to transport patients and shit through when the place was active. It's super creepy. Also, as a side note, it was where hydroshock therapy was developed in Canada, and they were using it on veterans from one of the world wars. Patients were back in the day, treated terribly, but before its closing it was a modern medical psychiatric facility. So this place was literally beautiful during the day. They brought plants and trees and flowers from all over the world to help the patients calm and for outdoor therapy. So much so that my first day's shifts there I would wander about the grounds a little bit and go through the buildings. Oh, I forgot to mention that this place is pretty big, bigger than the university campus I went to, with several buildings and many main patient facilities. On my first night shift, nothing. Second, nothing. All these nights I worked there, nothing happens. Some of the other guards say they don't like it, or they get a bad feeling, but I loved it there. One hot summer night I saw a June bug for the first time. They aren't common in BC, but I imagine it's because there may be a colony living here that got brought with the trees or flora back in the day. Not too weird. Then they started dive bombing me, like 6 or 7 of them. I was a little grossed out, but I took a picture and sent it to my wife to figure out what they were, and in that time I smacked and killed one. Called her on the phone all amused and was like, "Holy fuck, the other ones are eating it." She told me they don't eat bugs and sounded worried. But sure enough, these motherfuckers were mowing their fallen compadre. It was gross. They swarmed it like piranhas, but I didn't think much of it. So I got in my car and opened the windows. That night the motion sensors in the building flipped on lights almost my entire 12-hour shift. Like not even in sequence, like someone was walking from one place to another. Like top left, bottom right, middle floor. It seemed random at the time, but now I wish I knew Morse code back then or recorded it because shit got crazy. Weeks later I go inside the building at night to do a round, and holy fuck. Nothing happened except that my skin and butthole puckered like I was about to fight lubed up gay Satan. Like something was watching me and breathing on my neck, and I had a fight or flight right fucking now. For no reason. I remember the anxiety I felt at that time today, and like someone poured dry ice into my veins. Goosebumps on my skin so bad it almost hurt. Like every part of me was screaming that something was so wrong. I remember going outside to like a beautiful hot summer night and asking myself out loud what the fuck was wrong with me, and thinking that maybe that's why some other guards hated working there. And away we go. Now at night I can see things in the corner of your vision. They move and slither and dart away from my flashlight. Some nights going inside the building I have waves of bad vibes. Just sadness or that cold fight or flight feeling, which by the way now happens outside the building occasionally. I always tell myself I'm an adult and to get a fucking grip, but this shit is like non-stop. I always keep my flashlight on because lights will fail in rooms that I am about to walk into or am already in. Old building, I tell myself. But looking back, this shit is targeted. Like waiting until the door closes and then turning off, working seconds later, or the next time I come through. Doors are slamming down hallways I am not in. There is disembodied whispering, miserable moans barely audible. I no longer like coming to work. I put myself through this literally telling myself I had to because I had to overcome my fear of it. Be an adult, or I tell myself there was no ill intent, at least by whatever was going on in that place. Then one night I stopped going in at all, stayed in my car, and just watched the building while I listened to comedy on Slacker radio. Full bars and good reception and everything, and I am getting the moaning that sounds so fucking similar to what I heard inside. It freaked me out. Then after a couple nights of this, it goes fucking apeshit. In the middle of some stand-up comedian's joke it abruptly starts. Screaming, tons of voices, like men bellowing in pain and sorrow, women wailing and shrieking, children sobbing, but it all sounds like bad static, but at the same time, completely distinguishable is what it is. I ripped the earbuds out and started tearing up. I was a grown man at this point, but I don't think I had ever cried in fear before. Part of it was so fucking jarring and part of it was sheer terror, but I actually couldn't believe it happened. Like I actually was in denial of it happening to me within seconds of the earbuds coming out, and it stopped. I didn't actually want to believe what I had heard. I didn't want to ever hear that sound again, and I didn't want it to be real. I could tell myself in that moment that it was just static, and if I put my earbuds back in, and it didn't happen, it was over, and it wasn't real. P.S. I was listening over data on a cell phone. I don't know how they work, but I don't actually think they can get static now. So I put my fucking earbuds back in like a fucking moron. All this is happening in like 10 seconds and I literally have like years in my eyes and my hands are shaking like fucking daring this shit not to happen so that it will be all in my head. And my comedy is back. Just regular shit, the joke is finishing and then it happens again. And I pull the headphones out and it's coming out of my phone speaker too and my blood is so fucking cold. Just typing the story out is giving me anxiety, man. I'm probably not going to sleep tonight now. And I close Slacker radio and it kept going. And I panic and hold down the power button on my phone. Screen goes black. Phone powers off and it keeps going. It smells horrible in my car now for some reason. I can't even describe it, but acrid and like rotting garbage, and it stings my nostrils. I fumble with the battery and remove it. The fucking sound stops. I called my wife in hysterics. She calmed me down. I know I scared the piss out of her. She had never heard me scared like that before, and honestly I haven't been scared like that since. I remember getting out of the car with her on the phone because I literally had to move. I can't explain why, but it felt like I had to get far away, and being trapped in the car was dangerous, like my primitive brain was just screaming, "Run," on repeat. Back to the sound. Some people are probably reading this and thinking like, what a pussy, or whatever, but it was hell, man. Like literally I had never heard the biblical definition as a place of great weeping and gnashing of teeth, but it fits perfectly. I heard hell, and it felt like something completely alien was trying to show me, like rub my nose in it. There was just a lingering intent in the whole situation for me when I experienced it. I felt hatred and contempt being channeled at me, and like something was lifting the curtain to show me its fucking work. Just pure dread and pain and agony, and it makes me sick to remember it. A cacophony of suffering. I should mention I am not religious, and after this it was about the closest I'd ever came to becoming religious. Once I was calmed down enough to be in control, I opened the car door and kind of poked my head in. The smell was gone and I got in and pulled the vehicle as far away from the building as I could and chain smoked the rest of my shift in silence, or on the phone with my wife. She also worked. Now the last part is the most fucked. I drove home from the shift and went to bed and my wife shook me awake fucking furious. Why would you do that? What the fuck is wrong with you? And I, confused and half asleep, was like, what is your problem? What? Like actually what? So she told me later she was so mad because she wanted me to laugh or be like, got you or whatever, but was angry out of fear. When she realized I actually had no idea what she was talking about, she went white as a sheet and told me I had to come look at something. I basically said like fuck off, I have to go back to sleep, but she persisted, and once I was awake enough to realize she was sincerely terrified, I followed her to the carport. Did you do this? She demanded, sounding pissed again, and pointing at the rear passenger side window of the car we shared for work. There was a 6-fingered handprint that was like super dirty on the window with fingers that were way too long. I remember I instantly tried to rub it off and I was about to get angry at her when I looked and she was still fucking scared. I love my wife. She is not a good liar and she has never had a reason to. We have only ever spoken about this a few times and she has never been comfortable with it. I know she didn't make that handprint. Back to rubbing it off, it didn't come off. Did someone you work with do this? I was alone last night, you know that. While she was basically demanding that I admit to making the fucking creepy ass handprint, I realized it was inside the car. Like something put its hand on the window from behind me inside my car, and I had a mini panic attack again, just imagining what the fuck would leave something like that. We cleaned it off and the crud on the paper towel smelled like sewage and rotting acrid bullshit, and I couldn't leave it in the garbage. At this point we were both fucking crazy together with like anxiety and fear over what the fuck happened, and I knew she believed me.
Any other things happen?
Nah man. When I stayed far away from the building but had a good angle of observation, I was able to continue working that job. I had nightmares about it for a little bit, and obviously it still bothers me to bring it up. I have had minor experiences in the same, I don't know, vein, at other places. It's almost like I got more sensitive to the negativity by being in such close proximity to whatever I experienced there. My wife and I don't bring it up when people get down to spooky stories while drinking, or whatever, but we both know. Like that happened and was fucked. I told her I posted it on here anonymously, and she was excited to see what people thought about it. Like I want to talk about it, but I'm an average guy, and don't want to be labeled as crazy. Once in a while I would hear about other stuff they're second or third hand. But nothing like what I experienced.